Good afternoon, Dr. Duramil. I'll focus on Chapter 11, Professional and Personal Identities at the Crossroads by Anna Ortiz and Richard Shintaku. This chapter discussed the relationship between professional and personal identities and explored the theoretical as well as practical implications for new professionals, supervisors, mentors, and faculties. To review the relationship of professional and personal identities, this chapter uses 3 stories. And now let's have a brief look at of these 3 new professionals. They are Deborah, William, and Christina, respectively. For Deborah, she's a woman with physical disability, and she got a position as a hall director in a large southern university. William, as a gay man, searched for a non-traditional position, and finally he worked as one college activities advisor committed to social justice in one women's college. And Christina, an African American woman, got a position in student activities. Now I'll come to more details about their stories. Because of her cerebral palsy, Deborah took into consideration the geographical location in her job search, but she did not want to be hired because of her disability, so she downplayed it in her job search and tried to be neutral and be safe at the initial stages of her job. But she felt dismayed and frustrated when she found out that some issues like accessibility of the building is not considered for disabled students. And then after several other incidents like wall climbing and on-campus lottery system, she decided to make her work meaningful as one educator and advocate for disabled students. William, on the other hand, was quite open about his LGBT identity and the work he had done during his undergrad and grad programs, and inquired some non-traditional questions like partner benefits and types of support for LGBT students and staff. And as a result, his work turned out to be quite instructive, challenging, growth-oriented, and exciting. Christina, as one woman of color, did not want to be hired because of her color, but because of her professional skills and experiences. So she searched for general student activities positions instead of multicultural offices or ethnic offices. And now when she reflected upon her first job, she felt that she just got the job right. Although their stories are different in several aspects, there are some common points in their stories. First, all of them are underrepresented minorities like disabled people, LGBT persons, and students of color. The second common point is their fear of being pigeonholed. All of them do not want to be hired because of their personal identity, but because of commitment to one field and their professional credibility. And then another point is that at last they all find resolve between their personal and professional identities. Those stories told us about the experiences of identity establishment and showed us the effect personal identity has on career development. To further prove their mutual effect, this chapter cited 2 theories for support: Erickson's human development model and career development theory. And both of them hold that work has to represent one's identity, and one's identity contributes to one's career decision making. That means one's career choice needs to represent one's experiences, sense of identity, and the contributions they want to make to society, and they will actively seek those positions that fit their personality traits and their abilities. If there are conflicts between personal identity and professional identities, career indecision or frustration will appear. And on the other hand, congruence between the two will lead to job effectiveness and personal satisfaction. I'd like to take these two as peas and carrots. If they are blended so perfect, the dish will be nutritious and eye-delighting, but if they are separated, they may not look so good and they are less nutritious, and even worse, consumers may not want them at all. This chapter also presented Slater's meta-analysis of several minority identities theories. In this theory, in his meta-analysis, emancipatory identities are formed through a 5-step process. Although these 5 steps are not necessarily linear, but usually it is. The first step is conformity and passive acceptance. During this stage, one can hardly recognize that there is oppression of his own identities. Of course, there won't be resistance to it. And the second step is dissonance. When one realizes that there is oppression and this oppression actually has one negative effect on his own identity. And the third step is immersion. When one is actually involved or actively involved in one's social identity and culture, when they accept and take pride in their identities, they are in this stage. And the fourth stage is holistic balance. That is when one actually can balance his personal identity with the broader aspects of his life and tries to develop one holistic sense of oneself. And after that, you will be able to actively commit to the field he wants to make a contribution to and be a voice. He wants to be a voice for one group and actually make social changes and progress. So from these 5 steps, from our narration of the 3 stories, we can clearly tell that William is at the 3rd stage of this model because he was quite open about his identities and he wanted to be a voice for LGBT students and staff. And Deborah, on the other hand, at the beginning, there is just this dissonance but not involvement until after the wall climbing instance and lottery system for residential reasons. From these 3 narratives, the authors in this chapter made several observations about the relationship between personal identity and professional development. First, one's personal identity will definitely affect how one constructs job search and evaluates job opportunities. For example, none of them wants to be hired just because of diversity reasons, but because of their professional insights and skills. Second, one's identity will affect how one perceives their job limits and boundaries. If they have only one kind of work experiences, they might be easily pigeonholed into one functional area, and when this area is aligned with their personal identity, it is quite difficult to determine which is at work. And the next point is institutional culture and environment really matter. If they encourage commitment to one certain identity groups, they will just encourage new professionals to be advocate and be effective in their work. The last point is that if the institutional environments, or if the whole environment is supportive, the new professionals will be able to establish multi-layered identities but make no compromise in their work. They won't try to hold back personal identities out of work, because being professional will allow them to be personal with students, colleagues, but this won't jeopardize their professional identities. In our class, we also talked about Jones and McEwen's multiple identity model, and I think it can be used to explain these three stories as well. In their stories, the context would be job search, career decisions, and career development. And in the process, their minority identity dimensions, like Deborah's disability, William's sexual orientation, and Christina's ethnicity, will become more salient when they interact with the context. But if the communication or if their interaction proves to be effective, integration will occur and they will form a thorough understanding of themselves and form one core identity that will encourage them to make commitments and contributions to what they really value. Then this will lead to their personal satisfaction and a successful career development. At last, the authors talked about the practical implications of these three narratives for professionals and supervisors. There are certain areas to be considered, like job search, how to establish professional credibility networks, how to challenge institutional structures, and how to fuse personal and professional values, and finally try to go beyond in the development of their professional capabilities. I won't go through one by one because of the time limit, but there is one point. It is critically important for mentors and faculties to lead students from school to career and help them through this transition. Probably their suggestions will influence the students or the new professionals a lifetime. They need to identify the unique qualities of every student and tries to encourage them to contribute their talent to the field they really value and they are so interested in. Okay, this is my presentation. Thank you for your time and attention. Dr. Duermil, thanks.